Welcome guys. Today we are starting a new topic and a new chapter, complex numbers and quadratic equations, of which I will just call it complex numbers for now. I mean, let's make the chapter name a little short. Okay. Anyways, so this is a completely new topic to you guys. You are not introduced to this thing before, anytime before. So try listen attentively, and yeah, I hope I'll be able to do my best to making you understand these things. So you have from now, you have heard about real numbers and natural numbers, rational numbers, irrational numbers, and then the whole set of real numbers. So we have learned about different type of number systems till now, from all the classes of all the math classes that you had from your, when I would say, first standard or LKG, I don't remember. Anyways, till now you have learned about different kinds of numbers. So today we are going to go and start studying about another set of numbers, a set of numbers that is completely different from real numbers. Okay, so let me give you this question first. 2x minus 5 is equal to 4, and if I ask you to find x, what would you say? 2x is equal to 9, right? And then you would say x is equal to 9 by 2. Very easy. So suppose the question was x squared minus 4 is equal to 0, a little more harder. What would you do? Shift the 4 to the RHS and find, or what you could do is a square minus, this is a square minus b square is, so a square minus b square is a plus b, a minus b. So you could do that. X plus 2x minus 2 is equal to 0. Then x is equal to minus 2, x is equal to 2, or it could be any value. That also is not that difficult. But guys, what about x square plus 1 is equal to 0? How would you solve this? Okay, let us go the other way. So either we can go a square minus b square. Oh, this is not minus, this is plus. Or yeah, we could actually do that. X square minus of minus 1 square. Or we'll go a different way. We will do, we'll shift the 1 to the RHS. X square is equal to minus 1. So x is equal to what? X square is equal to minus 1. Guys, you to see this. The square of a number, see, always the square of a number is a positive number, right? Till now, all the numbers that we have taken, the square of a number is always positive. Minus 5 square, 25. Minus 10 square, 100. Whatever negative number you take, you square it to get a positive number. But here, what they are saying is, here what we got is, the square of the positive number is, the squared number is negative. That is weird. So how will you find the root? How will we find the root of a negative number? So what we are actually getting is x is equal to root of minus 1. What sort of number is that? We cannot use any number with which we have studied. Can we write minus 1? No, because minus 1 square is 1. Minus 1 into minus 1 is 1. So minus 1 is not the answer. So what is the root of minus 1? Guys, if you are, if you do not know about this, don't worry, because this is a question which people have been thinking for centuries and centuries and centuries. I will come to that now. So what happened today is, this thing, root of minus 1, is called I, and I is just a short form for imaginary. If my logic is right, I is only a just a term to denote imaginary. But because it sounds imaginary, because it looks imaginary, because we cannot see this number. How can we see the root of? Can we see the root of minus 1 in our hands? Root of minus 1 we can see, because minus 1 we can say as when one person takes away something from us, we can say we have minus 1. That means we have lost 1. We can at least say like that logically. But how can we say anything anything with root of minus 1? It sounds very stupid, right? Not only I mean, many people in the past also thought these numbers as very stupid, and they actually they actually defined it in many ways. We'll come to that. But anyway, so just understand that, now, so we have, everyone has come to a consensus, and everyone has come to an understanding, and they call this root of minus 1 I. So I is root of minus 1. It is a standard, it's a definition taken like that. Okay. Now, these type of numbers, these numbers are called imaginary numbers. Now, because I called root of minus 1, what about root of minus 2, minus 3? So I can go to infinite numbers. Now, that is also not an issue. Why? Because root of minus 2 I can write it as root of 2 into root of minus 1. Root 2 into root minus 1 is root of minus 2, and root of minus 1 is I, so root of minus 2 will be 2i, root of minus 5 will be 5i, and root of this big number 9483 will be 9483i. So you get it, by just calling this root of minus 1 a number, we are just calling it imaginary I. By just naming root of minus 1 as I, we can now find the root of any negative number, whatever be it. So I think you're able to understand the what is new. I mean, this is, so I think you're able to understand the difference. Till now you have never dealt with roots of negative. Till now you have dealt with negative roots, minus 2, minus root 2, minus root 3 you have dealt, but you have never done with root of minus. That's a very new thing. Okay, so let us go a little into the history. So if we go a little into history, what we see is, so I saw this is not something that we started thinking about. Okay, this has been, the earliest noted date in the history is around 50 AD. Think about how many centuries around. So in 50 AD, Heron of Alexandria. So what Heron of Alexandria did was, he started thinking about, I mean, he faced a problem. So the issue was root of 81 minus, so when he was doing calculations, one day he came to across this issue, root of 81 minus 114, and he started thinking, oh man, what is this? What is root of 81 minus? It is a negative number. How can I find the root of a negative number? And this puzzled him. He could not proceed forward, because he had to stop there, because he didn't know what to do. And so he said, man, this is impossible. And then let's go on many years in history, and let's go to 1545 AD. So what happened? There was another person called Girolamo Cardano. Now I know the name sounds weird, but anyways, let us suffer with it. So he had this problem: x into 10 minus x is equal to 40, and he found that he got the value of x as root of minus 15, and he was like, whoa, what I'm gonna do now? So this is a big problem, because you'd find something, suppose you found a big thing, and you found a big relationship between different concepts, and you come down, you solve it, and you reach a negative number, root of negative, and then you have to suddenly stop. You can't do anything. You have to stop everything there, because you can't proceed with it. And again, so he also suffered with it, and he was like, man, this is useless mental torture. He just said that. And now later, in 1572 AD, there was a man called Raphael Bombelli. Now he said he liked imaginary numbers, what we studied now, right? He accepted the fact that, okay, there might be different sets of numbers, completely different from normal numbers. And he said, rules of arithmetic for imaginary numbers are not the same as for real numbers. And it is true. This was said in 1500. Wait, I forgot the year. What was the year? 72 AD. Yeah, 72 AD. So that time itself he said this. And he liked imaginary numbers. So he was like, wow man, this is good, a new set of numbers, amazing. And he was interested very much in it, and it is because of him that this idea of imaginary numbers actually got very popularized. I mean, got popular. Now let us go a little more years in front, and we'll go 1637 AD. There was one philosopher called Rene Descartes. Do you find his name as any? Do you find anything with his name? I mean, do you imagine? See, do you know this guy? Now, I mean, you should be knowing why. Because you have all learned about Cartesian coordinates, right? You know who made Cartesian coordinates? Cartesian coordinates is one guy who worked behind it. I mean, it is attributed to this guy Rene Descartes, and that is how the name Cartesian itself came. Descartes, Cartesian. That is how that term even came. So I mean, I just wanted to let you know that. So by the way, there's one more thing. Wait, let me go a little back. So when we looked at Heron of Alexandria, this also you should not be knowing this guy. You know why? You studied Heron's formula in way. I don't know which class you might have studied that, but every CBSE student would have studied this Heron's formula in triangles. So this guy is pretty famous. They are not simple people. They are very well versed in mathematics, and still they all stumbled at this point. Now, coming back to our Rene Descartes, let us see what he said. Man, these are imaginary numbers. Exactly. So that is how we got the name. This guy is behind. Rene Descartes. He's behind. Getting this name imaginary. See, he didn't name it. Our parents name us because of love. They because of love they gave us different names. But what Rene Descartes did was he didn't like these numbers. He like the other guy. Cardano, he was saying that this is useless mental torture and all. So like that, Rene Descartes also said, oh man, this is imaginary. He was insulting it. Actually, he was insulting the numbers. He was not calling this imaginary numbers because of his interest, but he was tired of it and said, oh man, these are imaginary numbers. And actually that is how we got the name imaginary numbers. These numbers are not imaginary actually. I mean, it is real as any other number. Root of -1 is not an imaginary number. So yeah, but he actually called it imaginary, and and from there we just got the name imaginary. It just stayed on. Okay, so let us move on few years, and let us come to 1777 AD, and we reach this great mathematician called Leonhard Euler. It is pronounced Euler. Okay, so Leonhard Euler, he's a very famous, and you have already studied about him. You have studied about Euler's postulates and all before in maths, and this guy is also a very in this from the point of mathematics, he was a very profound person, and he actually made this thing that he actually said that root of -1 we can call it I. See, many people said that there's a new set of numbers, but he came and he said, we will call it I. We will fix the convention. And this guy was, he wanted symbols, so he was said, root of -1 we'll call it I, and that is how we reach the complex number, the imaginary numbers today. Now you might be thinking, so the topic name is complex numbers. Why are you teaching us imaginary numbers? I will come to that. Don't worry. So this is around a little. This is not a full history. I'm just to give you, just to make you understand. How many people have already been struggling. To understand this. Okay. So, anyways, now let me go. Let me go back to the PPT. So we understood I is equal to root of -1. Now what is I square? So I square will be root square of root of -1. That will be -1. Okay. Now this is the only number. I mean, imaginary numbers are the only number where this where the square becomes a negative number. Okay. Now I cube, I square into I, and I square is -1, so it will become -I. I to the power 4 is 1. How? I to the power 4 is I cube into I cube is minus I into I minus I square, I square is minus 1, so minus of minus 1 is 1. So again, so I raised to 4 is 1, and we can proceed forward like this to many other things, but for now, I'll take you to something else. So that is sorry, my throat is having a little issue. So coming to this, we have all studied about real numbers and we saw that we can represent real numbers in a number line. We saw that in the second class of the first chapter, that number line system and all we studied. So for example, like this, and we saw that rational numbers, irrational numbers, whole numbers, natural numbers, integers, everything, all numbers that we studied just before today's class can be represented in the number line. But imaginary numbers cannot, because we see here negative numbers come, here positive numbers come. Where does root of minus 1 come here? Where does I come? It just doesn't come here. So we need something else, to represent it geometrically. So geometrically represent it, we need something else. So let us go to a new representation of numbers, and that is Argand diagram. Now Argand diagram is the diagram through which we can represent both real numbers and imaginary numbers. Okay, so exactly, and so any number any number in the whole world, any number, because now we also got imaginary numbers, any number in the whole world can be represented by writing it as a sum of real number and imaginary number. So, and this sum is called complex number. So complex number is the sum. It is like writing real numbers and imaginary numbers together. That is called complex number, and I will come to tell you how it is written. So this is the Argand diagram, and one example, and here we see different points A, B, C, D. So how do you write A? So this is horizontal axis. This is the real numbers. Okay, the horizontal axis, the x-axis is the real numbers, and the y-axis is the imaginary. You can see the I. See, so the y-axis is the imaginary, and horizontal axis is the x-axis is the real axis, real numbers axis. So this representation is called Argand diagram, where your y is imaginary and your x is real numbers. So any number, if you want to say 4 minus I, so A, what is A? A is in real number is 4 plus, so real number plus imaginary, so real number is 4, imaginary number is minus 1. So this point is 4 plus minus I, that is 4 minus I. Then what about B? B is real number is 3, complex is minus 3i. So sorry, complex imaginary is 3 plus 3i, so it is 3 plus 3i. What about C? Real number is minus 3, complex is 2i. Sorry, imaginary is 2i, so the complex number will be minus 3 plus 2i. What about D? D real number is minus 4, imaginary is also negative, minus 2i, so it will become minus 4 minus 2i. So you see how any number in the whole world can be represented as complex numbers. And what are complex numbers? It is writing together real numbers and imaginary numbers, like this, a real number plus imaginary number. That's right. So you might ask, sir, how do we represent 5, 4, 3 normal numbers now, which we studied in? How do we represent? Okay, that is also can be represented in the form of complex numbers. How? Let us see. Look at 5. Okay, this 5, I can write it as 5 plus 0i. So any number what we studied, if we just make the imaginary part 0, we'll get our normal counting numbers. So that is why I said any number in the whole world can be represented in this Argand diagram or Argand plane. This is also called Argand plane. Like Cartesian plane, you studied Cartesian plane, so this is called Argand plane. Basically the same thing. This is the only thing, that the only difference is in the Cartesian plane now you have added imaginary numbers. That is called Argand diagram. So these complex numbers are usually represented by the term z. Okay, so the notation of writing this is z is equal to a plus bi, where a is a real number, b is the bi is the imaginary part, a is the real number. So z is a complex number. Now, so that is enough for now, and let us move on to a different thing. So let us come back to our PPT. So what do we see here? Z is equal to a plus ib. Okay, so that we came to know. Now this thing, I can represent it like this. So p of z is actually a, it's a complex number. So this complex number, I can write it anywhere, and this is x-axis, y-axis. X is the real number axis, y is the imaginary axis. We saw that. Now there is always, as normal lines also, we know that it always tends an angle theta. And if I draw a line from the origin, if I join the complex number with an origin like this, I see that I can find the y and x. How? Trigonometry. It's a right angle. If I join these like this, it's a right angle. So what will be the y? Y, I can say it as, y will be cos theta. I'm sorry. Y will be a sin theta, and x will be cos theta. We studied in trigonometry also that the x-axis will be cos theta and y-axis will be sin theta. So since it is imaginary, it will be we can also write this as I sin theta. So the value set is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta. So if you apply Pythagoras theorem, also you will get it. So cos square, this is cos square theta plus sin square theta. The value is, see, I is the representation, imaginary representation. The value is sin theta. So sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. So if this, so this r value actually will be 1 if it is like this. So for this representation it will be 1. For this, in this value, z will be 1. Now if I want to scale it up, I'll come to that. I just want to show you now that z also can be written as cos theta plus I sin theta. Now suppose I want to increase, because now I know cos square theta plus sin square theta will be 1, so z value will be 1. But suppose I want z as 2, 3, 4, and I want many other numbers. What will I do? I can just multiply it. If I multiply this whole thing by 2, I'll get 2. If I multiply the whole thing by 3, I'll get 3. So that means, let me make it a little more clear. See, if I multiply this whole thing will be 1, z value will be 1. If I multiply this into 2, I'll get 2. If I multiply this by 2 by 3, I'll get 2 by 3. So I can get any number just by multiplying it, right? So basically, what is this multiplying? Scaling. So I need to scale this a little more higher. R is equal to 2 modulus z, or 2 modulus 3. I can write it like that. So there we get this representation, that is z is equal to r into cos theta plus I sin theta. R, is the scaling factor. R is that number with which you multiply. So there are two forms of writing complex numbers. One is z is equal to a plus ib, and z is equal to r cos theta plus r sin theta. When I open that, it will be r cos theta plus r I sin theta. Now, what is this r? See, if you look in this diagram, you will see that this part is x and this part is y. So using Pythagoras theorem, r square will be x square plus y square. X square plus y square. R square will be x square plus y square. Pythagoras theorem. And therefore r will be root of x square plus y square. So if I want, yeah, I will come to that later. So anyways, this value is also called modulus of z. Okay, so r is equal to modulus. It's also written here. So if the question is to find the modulus of z, then I already explained to you in the last chapter what modulus is. I mean, not the last chapter, the relations and functions chapter, what modulus is. So the same thing applies here. So here, but instead of the in the relations and functions I taught you, for normal numbers we are taking the value without the sign, but here the way to find modulus set is like this: root of x square plus y square. What is x square plus y square? It is a plus b, right? What is this a? This a is actually the real number, that is x is equal to a, and this, what is this b? B is actually the imaginary number in the imaginary axis, so this is actually b. So basically root of x square plus y square means root of a square plus b square. Okay, now so this guy's name is modulus, and so this I can also write this as, I know it's getting too much, so let's take time. If you don't understand, just try to play the video again and see it. So so as I said, there are different ways of representing complex numbers, and one way is z is equal to a plus ib. Okay, another way is z is equal to r cos theta plus I sin theta. Another way is z is equal to r into root theta, sorry, r angle theta. Now r, we know what it is, angle theta. See, this by when this line moves around in the plane, it makes an angle with the x-axis, right? Wherever it is, suppose the line is like this, it makes an angle here. Suppose the line is like this, it makes an angle here, right? So wherever the line moves, complex numbers move, the line joining the origin 0 and the complex number, wherever that line moves, it makes an angle. So there's another way of writing it, that is, I write the modulus value and then I put the angle also. Now this form of writing, it can, r is also modulus set, so you can write it like this. So this form of writing is called argument. This form of writing, this theta is called argument. It's not the whole thing. Okay, so modulus z is called, sorry, this value is called modulus z, and this angle is called argument. So now this form of representation, a plus ib, is called rectangular form of representation, and this r theta form, r angle theta, is called polar form of representation. Okay, when you will understand that when you go through the textbook. Now so let us come back. I will show you something else which will make you a little, which I hope will make you these topics a little more clearer. So that is, if you look in this, you will see that so this is value, so this is my complex number. So wherever I move, it will show the value, and it's like 4 plus I. Why does I? Because it's 1, and if I go like this, it will be 4 plus 2i, and if I can go like this, I can go to any point, decimals, so rational numbers, all thing I can represent within this Argand plane. Of course, the rational number, if you keep on zooming, it will never end, it will keep on getting a value, as we saw in the number system. But anyway, so I hope you understand that, so if you look carefully, you will see that there is an angle also with this line. See, if you look here, this shows the modulus, r1 is the modulus here, and theta 1 shows the angle. So if I keep going, this angle is shown in radians. Okay, by the way, this is shown in radians. We know that there are two representations, right? Degrees and radians. So if you see, if I keep on moving, you see the angle keeps on changing, new values of r comes. So I hope that you are actually able to understand this. So this is called Argand diagram, where you can represent it. So that is what I actually wanted to make you clear. Now let us come back to our PPT. And so I think this much is enough for today to understand this. So we have actually come into a topic which is completely new, and I want you guys to make sure that you understand it. Go to the textbook also. This video is made so that when you read the textbook, you'll be able to understand. So do not disregard the textbook. Please read the textbook also. And I hope you are able to understand why these numbers are made and why it is necessary. Because let me just give you some few points. Because of these numbers only, see, our electric post, now all the electric lines are it's connected through many electric posts. electric tower, the current electrical towers and all these things, the lines that go would not be possible without complex numbers. And you'll be thinking, sir, how come? So it is like that. And to explain that, I'll have to go a lot into the concepts, which is difficult. So what I would say is, if you look around, many things today, many things in the world, are just made possible because of the invention of complex numbers. The complex numbers are not an invention. -1, root of -1 is a concept. It is a concept that is there in the world, but the term I is a invention. That is why I called it an invention. So many things in the world, the waves, I told you about sine wave, cos wave and all. So all these things, when you go a little more deep into that, when you see that, complex numbers play a very important role. And by the end of this chapter, I will actually show you how to derive. We studied cos of a plus b is equal to cos a cos b minus sin a sin b, and we studied sin of a plus b is equal to sin a sin b plus cos a cos b, and all these different formulas. So I didn't show you a proof of that time, and I'm not going to show you a proof anyways here also, but I will show you a way from which you'll be able to appreciate the beauty of complex numbers. By the end of this chapter, not in this part, by the end of this chapter, I will tell you how you can relate both of them. Okay, so for now, let us stop for today, and contact me if you have any doubts. Thank you.